You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates. You're listening to Absolute Empowerment with Coach Jeff Connors on The Sports Objective. Join Coach C, a USA Strength and Conditioning Hall of Famer, every Monday night as he and a variety of guests, including former players, former and current coaches, pastors, and others will discuss relevant issues in coaching today's athlete, with the goal of equipping the athlete and those coaching them with the physical, mental, and spiritual armor necessary to live their best life. Here's Coach Connors.
Welcome to Absolute Empowerment. Tonight we have a very special guest, Greenville's favorite son and quarterback, Holton Ahlers. And glad to have you in the house here, Holton.
Yeah, Coach C. Hey, appreciate for having me, man. Anything for you, obviously. I appreciate you a lot and kind of where you've got me in my career. So, hey, when you reached out, I'd love to do it. And I've watched this a ton now. You send them to me, and I watch them all the time too. So excited to be on.
Well, I had an opportunity to coach you for a year at ECU, and I got to know you in relationship to your work ethic, your physical attributes, your leadership attributes, and I was always very impressed during the time that I had you. So I really want to talk a little bit first about the quarterback position. And I'm going to kind of give you my little history here so you know that this quarterback position has a real special place in my heart and in my life.
Oh, yeah.
My dad played quarterback in high school.
Yep.
Very, very good athlete. He was also a baseball catcher. He and my mother were kind of hooked up in grade school. So they were longtime sweethearts. But anyway, they got married young and had me. And basically, my dad decided that he was going to go to work to support the family. But then about 4 or 5 years later, he decided he was going to go back to college and play ball.
Oh, yeah.
So I was born on the 12th of June. So my dad always wore number 12.
Oh, heck yeah.
So we got a little bit of karma there.
Yeah.
So I was about 5 years old, and I used to go watch my dad play quarterback at Salem, West Virginia. And that was kind of unique because there weren't many kids there watching their dads play. And so he'd take me to class with him sometimes and all that. And a lot of his teammates would remember me like 40, 50 years later, back when I was 5 years old.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
But then I ended up going to the same university, and I was also a quarterback ever since I was in third grade, all through high school. And so I went to Salem as a quarterback. I redshirted. I played 1 year as quarterback. Started, I think, 9 out of 10 games. And then, of course, they had decided to move me to defensive back. So they went to a straight drop back offense, and I was 5'10" on a good day. So I was a play action kind of guy, and I like to run with the ball, that type of thing. But anyway, I moved to a position called strong corner. So I got to understand a little bit more about defense as well through my collegiate career. And if you can believe it, there's still a film, a game on YouTube, 1976, me playing quarterback against Glenville State University in West Virginia.
Hey, I need to look that one up. I gotta critique you. I gotta let you know how it is. Huh.
So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my background in relationship to my affinity for the quarterback position. Having grown up and my dad was also, a high school coach.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
He had all the passing records at Salem. And then after I graduated, Rich Rodriguez actually became the head coach there.
Dang.
And then Terry Bowden was also the head coach there. And he brought in a quarterback by the name of Jimbo Fisher. And
Dang.
so all these guys were at Salem, West Virginia, and Jimbo, I don't know if he broke any of my dad's records or not. I've got to check that. But my dad and Jimbo are both in the Hall of Fame there, of course. But Terry left and went to Sanford, I think, and took Jimbo with him after 2 or 3 years there.
Dang, that's crazy.
As you could imagine, Bobby Bowden was sending some ringers up there that couldn't make it in school or whatever. If they had issues, they ended up at Salem.
That's wild.
Moses
That's
Mobley was a really good player, the tight end. I don't know if you ever heard of him, Moses Mobley.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to give you a little bit of background there, and because I want to talk some nuts and bolts about the quarterback position. So the first thing I want to talk to you about, because I know you went through a learning curve and learning experiences, and you've gained a ton of knowledge in relationship to that position. But I want to talk about reading the defense.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to say a phrase, and you basically, I'd like for you to just talk about that. Tell me what you know about or what you want to express about. So the first thing I want to say is number of defenders in the box.
Number of defenders in the box. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it all starts, especially in today's offenses. I mean, I could go on and on as you can tell, but in college offenses today, especially pros a little bit different. Pros kind of just matching whatever the offense does on defense, but in college, there's so many multiple offenses out there that there's spacing offenses where you run the spread and you try to get guys in space, and then you got under center I formation, and that's kind of where it all starts with. Is I mean, if you have let's say 6 guys in the box, generic base play call in today's college's offenses is if you call in say a quarterback draw or a running back draw, and they're going to be blocking 5 of the defenders, and then you read the 6th defender, and if the 6th defender's in the box, then you throw it outside, and then obviously if the 6th defender's outside the box, then you hand it off or run the draw. And so I mean, it just starts with numbers in the box. I mean, the closer you get to the goal line, you're going to add more people. It's going to get to 7 and possibly 8, and then obviously it matters about how many tight ends you have, but that's a big thing that people don't realize. And that offensive and defensive coordinators kind of mix and match. It's a chess match throughout the game. About what personnel there is, because obviously, you bring in 11, 12 personnel, you're gonna have more guys in the box. But I mean, shoot, that's kind of where it all starts. Is 6, 5. If you have 5 men in the box, you got to run the ball. I mean, if you can't run the ball with 5 men in the box with 4 down linemen, to say a 4-2, 4 down linemen, and you got 1 backer in the box, and you can't run the ball, then probably your team ain't gonna be very good. That's just how it is. And then honestly, with 6 in the box, with today's RPOs offenses in college, you got to be able to run the ball with 6 in the box, and then like I said, read the 6th defender. And then when you get to 7, you got to have a one-on-one guy on the outside, because that probably means you get man coverage, and you got to be able to throw slants, throw go balls, and stuff like that. But hey, if you're really good and you got some dogs up front, you should be able to run the ball too. And that's kind of where it separates the good teams from the great teams and the bad teams from the good teams, honestly.
So knowing personnel would affect, let's say, what you're going to check to?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think that's where it all starts. I was with the Seahawks this preseason and some of the season. I mean, we got the helmet mic on, and first thing the offense coordinator says is, 12 personnel. We go 12 personnel, you expect a certain look from their defense, where it's a penny front with 5 down linemen, because we're bringing in extra tight ends, so they're going to bring in extra D linemen. In NFL is a lot more of that than college. I think college is, these defensive coordinators are out there trying to make a name for themselves, so they're a little hard headed and keep their personnel in. Say you bring 2 tight ends in on offense, they might keep out their nickel personnel or just their standard base personnel. But in the NFL, it's a little bit different. They match personnel for the most part. I mean, there's some teams that randomly won't match, but if you bring in 12 personnel, you're expecting 5 down linemen in the NFL, and then in college, you're really expecting 4 down line, a 4-2 front for the base.
Gotcha. Okay, so next would be recognizing man coverage.
Oh yeah. Hey, that's where you become a quarterback. That's where you become great. it all kind of, gets back to each other. And like I said, I mean, if a team brings out, penny personnel is what we call it in the NFL, and that's 5 D linemen. You're that's a alert right away for man coverage, because I mean they're taking out a pass defender. They ain't gonna drop a D lineman, and if they do, he ain't gonna be very good at dropping. Um, so I mean, you right away, you bring in 12 personnel, you're expecting man coverage for the most part. To recognize it, I think the easiest thing I did to recognize man coverage, just from a base standpoint, is just the eyes of the corners. You're going to have one high for the most part, for the standard looks, and then the eyes of the corners. Corners ain't going to be looking inside. No corner wants to be looking inside when the ball is snapped if they're guarding the guy in front of them. That's just kind of how it is. And none of these corners, their biggest fear is getting shown on the jumbotron, getting beat on a go ball. So they're going to be locked in on their guy's hips. So you go to the line of scrimmage, and every single side, every single corner's eye straight ahead at the defender, and then you got to have a guy over the running back. And that's something I learned later in the career is not only the eyes of the DBs and the safeties, but the eyes of the linebackers in man coverage are huge, because these linebackers, especially in college, man, I mean, they ain't gonna sit there and cover the running back for long. They're terrified covering these guys. Linebackers are meant to go downhill and hit people in the run game. They ain't meant to cover in space. So if they're in man coverage, that linebacker is gonna be staring at the running back pre-snap, and it's pretty obvious the more reps you get at it, and that's kind of what I get from that. I'm giving these long answers, but I mean, I could talk ball all day.
No, I mean that's what we're here for. We're here to talk
for
some
sure.
ball.
For sure.
That's good. So how about motion? Does that tell you something about man coverage?
Ooh. Yeah, you ain't lying. Yeah, I think that's the best thing, even from freaking high school all the way to the NFL. I think that is the best indicator of it, is motion. And I would go through a script. If I went through one of my game scripts at NFL, I mean, we have a motion every single time. You expect man in third down. That's the number one. Man in on third down and red zone is a huge indicator as well. I mean, that's the first thing you're going to expect. And in those things, the scripted out plays, I mean, we're going to have a motion every single time. You got to, because it tells you if someone follows them, it's pretty much 100% man coverage if someone follows them. So if you motion a receiver from one side to the other, and the nickel follows him all the way over, that's for a reason. He's not dropping to his own. That's his guy that he's covering, that he's following. And then I mean, if he doesn't follow him but they roll, so that means the safety up top goes down to that side, and the guy that was over him goes to safety. That's the same thing. They're just switching. If they have two good safeties that they feel like they can cover, but motion's a huge thing, because if he comes across and no one goes with him, whether the safeties roll or he goes all the way across, that's zone 100%. That's unless they got some one of a kind defense that I've never seen before. It's going to be zone coverage. So, I mean, it's almost cheating. I mean, if you're a good quarterback and watch film, you should know if it's man or zone if you have a motion. Now, they do a good job of disguising it. It ain't as easy as I'm making it seem, but with a motion, it should be pretty easy if you game plan them pretty well. You should know them enough and know their tendencies to know whether it's man or zone.
Now, your senior season at ECU, what was your favorite go-to if you read man coverage?
Go ball. I mean, shoot, we had some great go ball guys. Depending on down the distance, obviously if it's 3rd and 2, I'm not going to jack up a go ball. I had the freedom to change the routes on whatever it was. Short yardage, I might would go to a slant, but we had some really good go ball receivers. I mean, I gave them a chance, and they made a lot of good plays. And so I said, man, if they're going to give man coverage, you got to have guys that can win on the outside. And that's, kind of what you're seeing with, the teams that are successful have guys that can do that. And they also can run the ball. But, if they're in man coverage, just because they're stacking the box, what we talked about earlier, you got to have guys one-on-one coverage. I mean, even if you give them a 50-50 ball, I mean, those are pretty dang good odds. If you went to Vegas and told someone you had 50-50 odds, they would take it. And that's just, especially with your guy, and you can make it, an 80-20 odds, you can give them a chance at it, and you got a stud out there. That's how you win games.
Right. Yeah, that little swing pass to Keaton Mitchell was probably maybe in your repertoire as well, maybe. Huh?
Yeah, I'd say if you got a running back that can run a 4-2, you can spit it out to him too. Let him do whatever he wants. Gotcha.
Okay, so let's move on to hot routes.
Yeah, hot routes. That goes in, a lot of time. I didn't know what the heck a hot route was until my freshman year of college, and I figured it out real quick because I was hot and I didn't know what the route was he was running. There's different hot routes and different offenses. My freshman year, when you were there, our hot routes where if the backer blitzes, then you fill the replace behind it. You go to green grass, and that's a certain hot route where the green grass rule, whether it's you might run a different route each time, but wherever the green grass is, wherever the open space is, that's where you go. And then I've been in offenses where the hots are within the place. I mean, you got to fade flat on one side, and you're hot to the right. No matter if the grass is open to the right, the only hot you have is the fade flat. So I've been in both. I kind of like, there's nuances in both, and I like a little bit of both. But I got so good with pass protections later in my career and picking up blitzes and stuff that I didn't really play hot that much. But I mean, if you do have to play hot, as long as you have a plan, the best advice I ever got on that was you're not hot until you get hit. If that guy might not be blocked, but he ain't blocked until he hits you. You have more time than you think you have, unless he's on the line of scrimmage. And I mean, if you have a plan most of the time and know where you're going with the ball, then if that doesn't work, you have a quick second plan. You should be good. That's what it really comes down to, all just game planning and a plan prior to. If you don't have a plan and you don't know what you're going to do until they line up, and you think you're going to be hot and you have nowhere to go with the ball, that's when you're having trouble.
Yeah. Now, do you think that in practice, let's say through your senior year, for instance, your last couple of years going against Coach Harrell's defense, where I see him have 7-8 guys in the box.
Yeah.
A lot of exotic blitz situations, and I love the defense. So,
yeah,
did that help you?
Oh, 100%. I think that's where college is a little bit different than the NFL. In the NFL, they're not going to do unsound things. In college, it sounds crazy enough, but they're going to put 7, 8 in the box and show blitz, and sometimes they'll send all of them, and sometimes they'll back up, and sometimes me as that's what kind of translated from when I was earlier in my career. I knew ball, but I almost knew it to a statistical matter rather than to a obvious matter of I would be like, okay, they can't play cover 2 out of this blitz look, so all right, they're not playing cover 2 here. Well, in college football in today's world, they play unsound defense, and they might actually play cover 2 there, even though it really wouldn't make sense for them to do that. And younger in my career, I would just cancel cover 2 out of my mind and throw it, and they're in cover 2, and maybe throw a pick. And then as I learned from it, I'd be like, okay, just because I know what cover 2 is and what sound and where everyone's supposed to be, and they can't be in that position, doesn't mean they might not try it just to confuse you to that. So it's a chess game between all that. But yeah, Harrell, his defense is, I mean, going against that every day in practice and then watching film of other teams, I would almost laugh, just because most teams, if you look at the nickel, the safety, and the boundary corner, you'll know what coverage they're in 90% of the time. And with their defense, I mean, it took me 2 years really to fully understand who to look at and what players to look at. And that's because like you said, I play them every single day.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's great news for ECU,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, for sure. And a team that ECU we had trouble with is Navy, and it's because they run the same defense. They run the same defense, but it's different enough to still – they have a couple of different nuances and blitzes and stuff. They have their own little style to it where it still causes trouble. And, that defense is a feast or famine defense. I mean, I'm not saying that in a bad way. That's just the way it is. And if you face a team that is not prepared for it and hasn't figured you out, I mean, you can have a day on defense. You'll get tons of turnovers, as they did this past Saturday versus Gardner-Webb. They pitched a shutout and had 5 turnovers, and you could tell those dudes they didn't know what to do. I mean, you go to the line of scrimmage and you're a young quarterback and there's 8 guys on the ball. First of all, you're thinking it's cover 0 and it's man coverage, and then half the time, if not more than half, it's not in that defense. It's not cover 0 and it's not man coverage, and you're like, well, what coverage is it? You might not have time to figure it out. So I think it's a good defense. I think it's perfect defense for ECU to run, just to get speed guys and confuse people and just go get turnovers. That's what the game's about.
Yeah, that team looked a little bit out of sorts.
They did that. They were just giving us the ball.
I think that quarterback might have had some small hands. He had a hard time with that.
He had something. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was struggling. He had good stats going into the game. And he was struggling.
Okay, so the next would be disguising coverages.
Yeah, see, that's the one that will get these young quarterbacks, especially in today's college, is, you're showing, a new one that I just got in the NFL that I never got in college, is showing one hole, which is, one safety here, and then at the snap going to Tampa 2. And that's kind of the one that is probably the hardest for me, just because Tampa 2 in college, if they're in Tampa 2, the safeties are getting wide. I mean, that's their job, is to not let anything get outside of the hash, to let everything go inside, because you have that backer pretty much covering the third of the field. So, I think go anything to Tampa 2 or just cover 2 in general is probably the hardest one to pick up if you have experienced safeties. Just because if you do have a safety who can, show one hole or one rat or anything like that, and then shoot to the back of the field and know where to have his eyes, it's hard to stop. Now, I mean, if you know what's coming, obviously you can hit a hole shot. Yeah, that's a hard one. I think about Coach Harrell's defense, the 17-year-old Jackson, I can't remember his first name, had the pick 6 versus App State. That's what they did. They were showing cover 0, honestly, and that's one of the things. It's like that's not very sound for the safety to be on the line of scrimmage and then have to run back to cover 2. I mean, he has to get 20, 22 yards on the numbers. So, that quarterback sitting here thinking they have man coverage and the corner is going to follow him, that snap of the ball, the safety rolls, the corner comes inside, they throw an out route because he thinks he's man coverage, is pick 6. So, I mean, that was a really good cover disguise. And, I mean, you'll see all sorts of stuff in college. It's a little bit easier in the NFL, to be honest with you. Just because they do match personnel, and certain personnel, you're going to have certain coverages. But in college, good luck. I mean, you got to watch a lot of film. And sometimes, I would get it done. But if you just have the right keys and understand your hots and understand protection, and, you should be fine. But I say that after playing 5 years of college football, too. I mean, I understand, these young kids that it's your first year. I mean, you're going to see a lot of stuff, especially if they know you're a first-year starter. And they're going to send all sorts of stuff at you.
Now, there's one thing that I saw, through the whole time I was with Coach Logan, was a shallow cross route.
Yep.
And I don't quite see that as much, it seems like, anymore. So, have you run that much, or?
I love it. I love the shallow cross, and I think that's what Lincoln Riley's so successful. I mean, his offense, they almost every single one, some sort of mesh, some sort of shallow cross. It's hard to stop. It's a lot of things, especially if you go zone and you get a receiver to sit it down in zone in the green grass rule. Like I'm saying, if you can just run a full shallow cross, but if there's green grass, you can just stop and look for the ball. I think if you get a receiver to do that, I mean, it's pretty much unstoppable. That was my favorite third down call. If it wasn't just a go ball, would just be 2 shallow crosses and a mesh with an OTB behind it. And because you have a zone beater, you have a man beater, but you got to have first of all, you got to call it. And then second of all, you got to have receivers that understand when to look, understand hots. Because, I mean, sometimes the rules may break themselves. Sometimes, you're not supposed to look until you pass the center. But there's that one time when you do need to look and before you pass the center. So you just got to have smart receivers with it. I think the game is so much of an RPO game now of linemen getting downfield that a lot of people don't run it because, they don't want to wait the time while the linemen kind of get up the field. But I certainly love it. If I ever become an OC, I will have it, a lot of it in my offense. It's hard to stop.
Yeah, with Steve's offense, of course, I was just a weight coach standing on the sideline. It looked to me like, maybe one of 3 receivers might run that shallow cross and you didn't know who.
Yeah. No,
So,
I mean, that's
I like that.
Yeah, it's hard to stop, especially if you run it right. I love it. Like I said, that was a big third down call of mine. I mean, I couldn't have had it enough.
Yeah, I used to really like that the old tight end drag and tight end delay.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
We used to have this thing called a pop pass. Man, we faked to the fullback. like little
Yeah.
jump pass, back
Yep.
in the day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I love that too. And that's Lincoln Riley's done that a few times. I think he did that versus Carolina. 2014 he ran it, and then he's ran it a couple times at USC. So he still has a little bit of that left in him.
Gotcha. Well, look, I want to talk about now some basic scenarios. We're still talking nuts and bolts
Yep.
that you actually start seeing in high school.
Yeah.
But, route combinations, your favorite route combinations, or, what are you going to run against cover 3?
I think cover 3, you got to attack the seams. 4 verts is a really good one with a check down. I like, later in my career, I didn't like just pretty much, putting 4 verts on it it's either all or nothing. You got to check it down. And if they blitz someone, if they go fire 3 zone, your back's kind of protecting there, so we got later in my career at ECU where we would run 2 seams up the middle and just, you would read the safety, and then the outside guys would have an option route. So if that cover 3, technically the corners are going to bail and we're going to have to curl up underneath. But if they did play man coverage and stay low, then we would run go balls on the outside. It would turn into 4 verticals. So we'd run option routes on the outside. But you just got to go seams. If cover 3, attack the middle guy, go seams with stop routes on the outside, like I said, with a check down, and you drop back. The more advanced you are, obviously, you got to look off. If you look right, the safety goes right, and then you hit the left seam. No one should be guarding it unless that corner is really good. And if the corner overlaps, which is pretty much when the corner's job is to cover that, that third of that field. So if he does see the seam and see the middle safety to the right, and he overlaps and covers that seam, that's why I like the option route on the outside, because then he has a stop route and you spit it out there and he's wide open.
Yeah. Well, I think when I played DB, I think I spent probably 60 or 70% of my life as a DB in cover 3, or some version of cover 3 back in the day when, we never saw less than 2 backs in the backfield.
Yeah.
And I played strong corner, so I always went to strong formation, which I hated because they wanted me 7 yards deep.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'd switch responsibilities with the strong safety, which allowed me to get up and force, which I like. But yeah, I spent a lot of time in cover 3. And then, of course, if we had motion went away, we'd rotate,
Yep. And that's the thing with motion. Motion can give you, if you have an offense where you can motion a guy a lot, and even on runs, it helps you a lot in runs too, especially IDing runs. If quarterbacks ever get to that, which I did later in my career, I always wanted the ID in my hands where those pass or run, so it always looked the same. And I understood if you rotate what they were doing, and I watched enough film later on where I kind of understood it. But yeah, I think. Cover 3 is still used a lot today. There's a lot of different versions of it, whether it's, buzz or fire or weak or everything in between. But at the end of the day, there's 3 safeties pretty much back there. And the goal of it, if you're calling the right offense, is attack to the middle of the field and then go inside out. The check down is kind of how you beat cover 3.
Yeah. How about cover 2?
Cover 2, got to attack the middle of the field. Those safeties are getting wide. We kind of talked about it earlier. I like in my perfect world, if we were going, if I knew they were going cover 2, I would go 3 by 1 and literally just go 4 verts. Make the safety, cover one of the go balls, seam balls. I'm sorry. So the one guy go to the other hash, and then you just attack away from him. That's the easiest way to do it. It's a 3 by 1 verts, but 2 by 2, you can go benders, skinny post by number 2 on the inside, because that safety's job is to get super wide, not let anyone outside of him. So he's going to have someone underneath. Obviously, those backers are going to get a lot of depth. There's a Tampa 2, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. Is kind of the more realistic one nowadays. People kind of got away from just straight cover 2 just because you could hit the middle guy unless you have a stud safety. But you got to attack the middle of the field. I think that is the key of it. And I love, just a bender over the middle, which, like I said, a skinny post, and then check down. If you got a good back, he's going to be pretty much one on one with these backers underneath. And then talk about hole shots. If you got a really good quarterback and a receiver that understanding, first of all, the receiver has to get an outside release. And then there's about a 18-yard window where the corner's, jamming up front. He's not gonna follow the
Right.
receiver after he jams, and then that safety is going to get depth and wide. There's going to be about an 18-yard window where you can fit a go ball in there if you got a good receiver that isn't afraid to take a hit and a good quarterback that can back shoulder him. That's one of my favorite throws.
Yeah.
You obviously got to know you're throwing it before you got to know what coverage they're in before that, and you got to trust your receivers getting outside release, because that corner is going to try everything he can to give him an inside release, because he knows the
Yeah.
weakness of it is the whole shot. So as soon as that
Right.
receiver goes inside, no whole shot possible. But as soon as he goes outside, you can get the ball out within, I'd say 1.2 seconds or less. You have a chance of hitting the whole shot, but can't put air on it. The receiver's going to get killed. You got to put it on a line on his back shoulder, and then kind of let the receiver, go from there.
So explain Tampa 2.
Yeah, Tampa 2. The best way to explain that, honestly, it turns into, it's the same thing as cover 2, except that Mike linebacker, since there is such a huge void in the middle of the field, that Mike linebacker is pretty much just going to shoot straight to the middle of the field and get a ton of depth, almost like a middle safety. It almost turns into like a cover 3
Right.
type defense. But the thing with that is he's going to turn. If you really watch film, he's going to turn to speed. He's going to turn to if you got a tight end on one side, when I say with speed, if you got a tight end on one side, and you got a slot receiver on the other side, he's going to turn to the slot receiver side if you got a well-coached team. And then the only other time he may not is if you got a stud running back that you use in the passing game a lot, and then he may open to his side, but not many teams are going to have guys at running back that they throw to a ton, really more than their slot receiver. So he's going to open to speed, and knowing that if you have a good tight end, you can sneak him underneath on a little basic route, 12-yard dig, and there's going to be a huge void. You just got to hit it before that backer can turn his hips.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't see many linebackers anymore look like Dick Butkus,
No. No, they're linebackers nowadays are, bigger safeties. A lot of safeties gain a couple pounds and go play there, but you ain't gonna see no big dogs anymore.
Yeah. How about like a 502 deep?
Yeah, that's a tough one. If you see it a lot, 3rd and 5 and under, you're going to see it a lot, or not a lot, but a lot. It'll be a matchup type thing where they don't want to play man coverage, but they want to keep everything kind of underneath, and or they go to it a lot in quick games. So if you do have a 3rd and 5 situation, you thinking, okay, they're trying to get to the chains. Well, that's when they'll mix in that. But it's mostly Tampa 2 nowadays. With mix in of 2 invert, which is just the corner and the safety switch responsibilities. But 5 underneath, yeah, good DCs. I've always thought if it's a quick game situation, you're a quick game offense or a RPO offense, that's what I would go to. It's hard you can disguise it good enough to confuse the quarterback, and if you can do that in quick game, if he's indecisive at all, you have a chance to make a play on it. So that's what I would go to if I was a DC in a quick game situation.
Gotcha. So just 1 or 2 more here. How about quarters?
Quarters, yeah, that's 4 deep, 3 underneath, and 4 blitzing linemen. That's when a team doesn't want to get beat deep. They're gonna bail, and you're seeing a lot of different versions of it now. Almost, I mean, you're seeing different versions now where you go 4-man, where the 2 outside guys are kind of manned up, and then the inside guys are playing quarters. But you better have studs out there if you're going to do that, and that's more of an NFL thing. But just straight quarters. Anything underneath should be good. I mean, should be open, quick game. And that's hitches, out routes are going to be good there. I like a good combination that we ran At ECU is it would be 2x2. We'd run out routes that converted, but they're not going to convert there. They only convert versus man. So they'd run 6-yard or 6-step out routes, which is 11 yards. And then which should be open versus quarters. But if that's not open, you just pick a side and then you got a basic on one side, which I just talked about versus cover two. And then you got a shallow cross on the other side. So you pretty much just pick a side and read outside in quarters is the way I would say it, because there's 3 backers. The middle one's going to stay there. The 2 outside are going to have, really they got the flat and kind of the curl area, unless you got a good corner. But they got to get really, really wide. So if you know it's quarters and can spit out a hitch or spit out an out route. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
My bad. My headphones just went out.
No problem.
But yeah, if it's quarters, you're going to try to spit the ball on the outside in a 5 to 10 yard kind of area. Those linebackers, and you got a receiver. You get the ball to a receiver on a linebacker with space. You can't ask for anything more. You just gotta recruit guys that can go win there, and that's a huge thing with that.
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to mention, in '91, Mike Cassidy was the defensive coordinator, and he had this coverage. He called it level coverage, and it was actually quarters.
Yeah.
Where 4 DBs would line up, and it looked like the same depth for all 4 of them.
Yeah.
And he had some success with that.
Yeah.
Situations.
Yeah, I think it's a really good coverage if you have guys that can play in space, especially if you have athletic linebackers that understand it. You have corners that, today's world disguising what we were talking about. If you have corners that can disguise, make it even look like cover 2. If you can get the safeties kind of pre-snap wide and the corners down low, but then when the ball snap, those safeties go inside and the corners go. That's a hard one to beat, because cover 2, to beat cover 2, what we talk about, those routes are totally different than beating cover 4 routes. So if you can disguise that, it's pretty good. A lot of quarters, turns into man. The best advice, I would say is, quarters is going to turn into man once those receivers pass 11 yards. Someone has to guard them.
Yeah.
So, if that receiver's running a 18-yard comeback, like that corner's still going to guard him either way. So that, if you have a good one-on-one guy, then that's a route that you could run. But if you don't have a one-on-one guy, then you need to run more 10-yard out routes and not let them get in that man yardage. Because once you get to a certain depth, they're going to have to man up on it.
Yeah. So in the NFL, would you say you see a lot more man with, matching up as the patterns develop?
Yeah. I think that's kind of the new, I think that's what football is kind of getting to is, getting some guys manned up and then playing kind of zone around it. That match zone is what they call it. And
that's what I was referring to.
That's what football is getting to is doing that. And these guys are, because honestly blitzes are getting so crazy that you show one blitz on film, a team's going to have to, like a blitz that beats someone, that team's going to have to prepare for it. And okay, they say, okay, if you get this blitz, it's cover 2, say. Then you're like, okay, it's cover 2 if we see this blitz. But then if you can blitz that same way and get a match with it and get a man coverage and send a guy in a different zone and possibly get a pick. So, the new defensive world in college is so crazy. There's definitely going to be a lot more match. I know in the NFL is a ton of match. And that was, a big eye-opener for me was, like I said, I'd be thinking I'm seeing cover 2 because the 2 safeties are wide and the 2 corners are pressed, but I'm really just getting 4 match. And it just looks pre-snap like cover 2. So I think that's the way to go. That's the best way to kind of confuse quarterbacks, especially quarterbacks that understand pre-snap stuff, is if you can get guys in man coverage and make it look like zone. That's a tough one because, like I said, DBs don't want to get beat deep. And that's the biggest fear in man coverage. Same with the DC. So if he can make it look like it's zone, then obviously that quarterback's not going to be thinking, let me hit a go ball on him. He's going to be thinking something to beat that zone coverage. So if you can mix and match that, you should have a pretty good defense if you can get a pass rush.
Well, one other thing I'll mention before I leave this topic is I was actually an offensive coordinator at a high school in Florida for a number of years. I didn't tell you that one.
How'd they do?
Well,
Put up some points?
here's the deal. I ran a straight T with 2 tight ends. And I was so happy to see Penn State went back to that in the red zone. I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah,
I'm
they
so
did.
They
did. Yeah. I saw that.
And actually, a lot of the same plays we ran.
That's awesome. Yeah, I ran my freshman year of high school, I ran the wing tee. That was my closest to it. I enjoyed it. That's kind of where I got my running roots from. I was watching Tebow and then running the dang wing tee my freshman year of high school.
Well, I love counters. And I love the trap the tackle, trap the end. You know, I mean, they never see you coming.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Awesome.
Especially if you get someone who think they're good and then just get an ear hole. It's not a good feeling.
Okay, so I want to ask you, what was it about the Manning's program that helped you prepare for your senior season? What I saw is you were able to be, successful against any defensive scheme as well as pressure situations. So, you were kind of unstoppable. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, they're the football family pretty much. With all 3 of them, with obviously Archie and then Peyton and Eli, and kind of I mentioned it earlier. Earlier in my career is I knew football so well and I studied it so much and I studied film so much. I almost overanalyzed stuff. Going into games, I'd be like, I knew every little thing, every little detail of everything, and the biggest takeaway I took from them, and I took a lot. I mean, I'm doing football lessons now, and I'm teaching kids the same drills that Peyton taught me, and the same pointers and stuff. So I mean, I still use it to this day. But the biggest thing I took from that was, Peyton. I remember asking him, how do you not overanalyze? Because obviously he was a genius guy. I mean, he pretty much same thing, knew everything about everyone going into the week. And I was, Peyton, how do you not overanalyze and not go into the field and think too much? Because that's the worst thing a quarterback can ever do, is think too much. I'd rather you think too little and play free than think too much and play uptight. And the best advice he ever gave me was, once you get about 2 or 3 days out from game day, just put the film down. You should know enough about them. But at that point, and you should just start focusing on yourself, focusing on your reads, focusing on that, rather than focusing on, little tendencies you can pick up. Like by that point, the game plan's in, the game plan. You just gotta go trust yourself and go play free. And, I think that was probably the best advice that he gave me that I took, especially going into my senior year, was, earlier in my career, I'd be watching film on the way over to the game. I mean, I would have it pulled up on my iPad and on the way, and not knowingly, I thought it was a good thing. And to an extent it was, but looking back now, that's just not how I played best, was trying to know every little tiny detail up into the game. I needed to watch 4 days of film. And then on Thursday, after I watched the red zone cut up one more time and the 2-minute cut up one more time, I knew I needed to put the film down and say, okay, I know their defense. I know their tendencies. I'm not going to watch any new film. I've already watched it all. Now it's time to focus on myself. Now it's time to make sure I'm going to play free, that my teammates are going to play free. So yeah, that was a long answer, but I think
a lot of people will appreciate that answer because you were highly successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a huge part to it. And I've said it in multiple interviews that was a huge part of it. Was, like I said, you can go play free. And another thing is just, you got to trust your teammates around you, especially early in my career. I knew coming in that, the situation coming in, I knew that I was going to have to make more plays than plays were kind of made around me, not in a bad way, but I knew coming in, it was going to be an uphill battle, and, we were going to have to, fight to keep guys, at ECU, and, fight to get, some good ones in there, some good recruits, good transfers. But, if you just trust your teammates, and it took a long time for me to trust, if we're running an option route in this cover 4, that this kid's going to run a curl route instead of a go ball. Because, earlier in my career, maybe that, they didn't do that, or maybe I didn't trust them to do that, but they were doing it. And, I think senior year, everything just kind of clicked. I think I trusted the guys around me, and they saw, how much work I was putting in, and then, putting down the film on Thursday got me, to be a better teammate, making sure that they were not watching too much film, or they weren't doing that, that they were just going to play free too. I mean, the more you can play free, the better. And that is just my senior year. I literally just went out there and played. I knew what I was doing. I knew what the defense was doing. But I didn't put too much on my plate. I just went and played.
Right. Good stuff. So, I noticed that your arm strength had improved after you went and spent time with the Mannings. So what did you do to improve your arm strength as far as throwing the football?
Yeah. That's something that I do daily. And, throwing's weird muscles. And obviously, you know that more than anyone probably just with what you do. But, throwing is not the same muscles you use when you do work your traps or anything like that. Like there's weird muscles throughout your shoulders that you never, it's hard to work. And not that you never work them out, but it's hard to work out just in the weight room or just, doing barbell stuff. And I have a lot of, band work stuff now. Tom Brady really started that, that the Mannings kind of, got into it the later in their career that, Eli kind of did. Peyton really never did, but they were knowledgeable about it by the time I got to them. They didn't get to do it later in their career, but, they expressed the knowledge to me. And I got a band routine that I do now and a workout routine. It's really not even a workout as much as it is like just, reps of, shoulder exercises, I guess is what I would call it, to work certain parts of your muscles that you don't usually work in normal workouts. So that I credit that, a lot to that. And then, another thing is I was a baseball player growing up. So I long tossed baseball, 3 days a week. As soon as I started playing football, I never long tossed. No one ever told me to long toss, which makes zero sense. But I mean, that's just the way it was. Everyone that was around me, did the best that they could, but, they weren't the guys that I was getting coached by, were learning kind of with me in a way. So I'm talking about younger in my career, not really in college. But yeah, I mean, I never really long tossed or anything. And then, I get the Manning Passing Academy, and that was a thing that I wanted to really improve going in my senior year. And the first thing I asked, or first thing they said, they were like, well, how many times a week do you long toss? And I was like, I ain't long tossed in 10 years with a baseball. So, I mean, I started a long toss routine and did it, 2-3 days a week during the off season and once a week during the season. And that's where I saw my, distance in the long ball go from, 55 to 58 to 75, 78. I mean, and it's, I was throwing the ball like, how the heck, I've never known this until now. I wish I knew this younger in my career, but it just turned out I didn't. But it obviously helped me have a really good, successful senior year. So yeah, those two things kind of, helped me in that category. But there's a million different, so-called gurus out there that, say this and that. But I think you just got to kind of find your own niche, find what helps you, find what feels right. But getting a certain band exercise, making sure you have an official warm-up, first 3 years of college, I would just go out there, throw the ball 10 times, and then go into practice. And that just wasn't the way to do it as a quarterback. Some running backs or whoever might be able to do that. As a quarterback, you got to loosen up your arm. You got to have all those muscles ready to go, or you're not going to be at your best.
Right. Interesting. So let's fast forward to draft day. And at the end of the day, what were your options? Did you have other options beside the Seahawks?
Yeah, it's such a weird day in general because, I mean, you got, I was hearing from teams the morning of saying, it's going to be a good day, be ready for the 5th round, 6th round, 7th round. And then, it comes and you go undrafted and you're like, well, crap, what do I do now? I knew kind of what the situation was. I knew that, teams were going to offer me and all that, but it goes so quick. I mean, pretty much we had 3 offers from 3 teams or 2 offers from 2 teams. I'm sorry. That kind of fell through just because we were trying to get more money, more guaranteed money from one team. And then, we called back to the other team to try to, use that situation to get more money. And then they're like, we already took someone, y'all are taking too long. So, oh crap, we better go accept this offer. Y'all are taking too long. We already took someone. So then I sat there with no offers. And, I'm on the phone with my agent and my family's around, and I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I going to be able to play football again? Am I going to get a chance at this? And about an hour and a half later, the Seahawks call, and I talked to Pete Carroll, and that, they give me a shot, and say they're going to give me a shot to go in there and sign me. And, I said, yes, let's do it. And, I would have never thought I ended up in Seattle, but it's just the way that God planned it for it to be. And, it was a good situation for me, and ended up playing good in the preseason and kind of going from there. But, I'm very fortunate and thankful that that's where I ended up, and know that that's just part of God's plan.
Now, when you got there, going to the NFL for the first time, I mean, were there any surprises for you?
Yeah, there was quite a few surprises. The first thing that I, kind of noticed was, this. I mean, about the dog days of summer and in college. I mean, that's what you live for, and that's what I live for. I loved it. That's where you build a team, especially in college. And that's where you figure out who you can trust. Who's going to get through the hard days, and you get to the NFL, and it's not that at all. I mean, you show up, you work out, you go to meetings. You don't have a conditioning test. That's a lot of programs. We didn't in Seattle. You're just expected to be in shape, and if you weren't, you were cut. That's just kind of how it was. But I think that was the biggest thing, was the strength program. Strength program was really good in my opinion. I really like the coaches, and I think you have connections with some of them. But it was just a different pace, I would say, than college. College is all gas, no brakes, get as strong and fast and big as you can for the season. In the NFL, you have some guys that are 35, 40 years old. They ain't trying to go out there and run when it's 100 degrees, and they ain't trying to lift 500 pounds anymore. They're trying to make sure their body's in the best shape that it can possibly be in by the time the game starts. And that's a little bit different than me, who's 23 years old. So I might have to go get extra workouts in. But it's definitely a different pace, a way more self-paced than college, where you have a set workout time, you go do it, and if you want extra work, you stay, rather than the NFL, you have one workout a week, and then if you want to get extra in, you go in.
Yeah, I mean, you have to individualize.
Yeah,
at that level, no question about that. And through my career, I probably visited 7, 8 NFL teams. Fly around. That's basically what I always saw. I was like, man, how come these guys aren't working harder?
Yeah, no, and that's
you got to keep them healthy, man.
Yeah, that's what it is. I remember Ivan, the head strength coach at in Seattle. The first day he was there, he called all the rookies together, and he was like, "This ain't college." He was like, "So don't expect it to be college at all. This is not how it is." He was like, "Our job is to make sure that you don't get hurt in the weight room, and you get whatever work you want to get done." He was like, you guys are making millions of dollars, and my tail ain't going to be the reason that you ain't out there.
Right.
So it's just a different dynamic for sure.
Yeah. I mean, a strength coach is going to get blamed if there's injuries. That's just how it rolls.
Yeah, 100%. Literally. I mean, college, NFL, that's just how it is.
So what were the takeaways from Pete Carroll?
I think he did a great job of keeping the guys. I talked about being in your best mental space. I think he's probably literally might be the best in the world at that. And you're seeing that now with Geno Smith, who pretty much was a backup for 10 years and then goes to Seattle and, is an all-pro guy again. And you're like, where has he been? It's because, Pete does such a good job of finding out how to get the best out of every player. And, that's one thing is I want to be a coach one day. So anything that he said, I was writing down almost like I'm just in there as an internship to learn how to be a head coach. I was like, might as well learn it now. I'd write down day before first game. What did he talk to us about? 2 days out, night of the game, morning of the game. I wrote all that down because it was just literally like he was just spewing with knowledge. And he's one of the best to ever do it. But yeah, he's probably one of the best, if not the best to ever do it with, getting guys in whatever mental space that they need to be in, and understanding that treating guys and going up to guys differently. Each player's individually, different. And he did such a good job of trying to get the best out of those guys.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me a bit that you wrote it down.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I was eating it up. I was like, this is a free, people pay a lot of money for this. And,
Oh
if
yeah.
I ever become a head coach, I'm going to go look back on it for sure.
How about Greg Olson? Takeaways there?
Yeah. He was such he's a true quarterback coach, and that is, I loved it in every way possible. And, obviously, it's well documented the resources that I had in my career and all of that. But he was a guy that, taught me a lot of terminology, taught me a lot of, ins and outs of how to play quarterback, not just play quarterback, play in the NFL. It's different. It's a different business. And, I kind of knew going in, the outside of football, how you needed to act and all of that. I'm not a, I'm a super simple guy, so I knew I would be fine with there. But there's a lot of things in the NFL playing quarterback, that you got to know in the game. And he taught me a ton of stuff there. And then just drill work. He has a ton of drill work. He's been around a really long time, and I'm all about learning different drills and different techniques on
Yeah.
how to do one thing. There's a ton of different ways to do just a few things, and that's just how it is. And doing new drill work. Some of the drills that he did made me a whole lot better.
Awesome. I'd like to see some of them someday.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I videoed all those too. I have it on. I was like, if I ever get cut, I'm not gonna be able to get to this film, so I'm gonna video it all on my phone. So
Nice.
I got
That's awesome.
for sure.
Well, the podcast, of course, is a Christian podcast, and
Yep.
I know you have a strong spiritual life, and I really believe that we are in warfare every day, spiritual warfare, similar
Absolutely.
to warfare on the football field. And when you're a quarterback, you take a risk with your self-image, actually, because all eyes are on you all the time.
Yep.
So you got to be strong mentally, emotionally, and physically. You got to have durability in all those areas. And I know that because I played the position in college.
Yep.
But confidence is born of demonstrated ability. And that's big for quarterbacks as well, to gain that confidence. So I guess my question is, was there ever a time through your career in college, where you had to rely on your relationship with Christ? You had to rely on prayer to provide you with the strength to overcome or endure something that you were going through?
Yeah. I'd say every day would be the simple answer. And I mean, I wouldn't have got through it without the relationship with him. I don't know how people, I respect everyone, but I don't know how people who don't have a relationship with Christ get through some of the things that they get through. And, I think for me personally, I went through so much, and, I was the starter at my dream school in my hometown at, 18 years old. I was a starting quarterback, and we weren't winning. I mean, as you know, and as all these fans know, we weren't winning, and, it wasn't a fun time. I mean,
Yeah.
The goals that I came in with, and is well documented, what the goals I came about changing the program and doing all that. And it sucks when you go 3-9, and as a starter your freshman year, and, you were getting recruited, it's all perfect and rainbows. And as soon as you lose one game, all them fans ain't as nice no more. All them feelings that you were feeling ain't as nice no more. And real quick, you gotta, I had to, separate football from life. I felt like I was failing in football, and early in my career, I let that think I was failing in life. And I wasn't, obviously, but that's what it felt like. I felt like I was letting my family down, and
Yeah.
I just felt like I was letting my home team down, my hometown down, and kind of everything in between. But I think losing early in my career helped me later in my career understand what matters and what doesn't. I think that's a huge thing that guys, people have trouble with today. Not just in sports, but in anything. Failing at stuff is a huge part of life. And I am very thankful that I failed early in my career, because if everything would have went perfect, then I'm cut right now from the NFL. I don't have a job like we were talking about before, but I'm fine mentally. I have a good relationship with God. I know I'm a good kid. I got a good family, and I know it's going to work out. And if not, then I know that God has other plans for me. But I wouldn't know that. I maybe not wouldn't have this mindset if I was successful throughout everything and never went through failure, and never had, those dark nights with God where I was, praying and crying to God, feeling like I was a failure. But going through that led me to here now where I don't have a job. I'm staying at my best friend's house, but I'm as happy as could be. I have a great relationship with God. I know everything's going to work out, and some people might call me crazy for that. I don't think so. I think, God is good, and he always is going to be righteous and look out for whatever the plan that, our plan doesn't always line up with his plan. And his plan doesn't line up with our plan. And my plan might have been to go have a 10-year NFL career, but if that wasn't God's plan, it ain't happening. I mean,
Right.
It doesn't matter what my plan was or not. So, I know that it's all part of a bigger plan. And if I'm supposed to play football and keep playing, then I'm going to keep playing. And, if God has, plans for me to do something else, then I'm going to go full force into that and have a positive, mind on it. Cause I know that, God's done some amazing things for me and got me through a lot of stuff, but he's also took me to some mountaintops that I didn't even know were possible. And he's got me there. And, I know that without him, I wouldn't have gotten, to those mountaintops, and I wouldn't have got out of those valleys. So I think the relationship with him is what, is my core, down to my soul. That's why I am here. That's why, the mental space that I'm in, and, I'm very thankful for that.
I spent the last 3 years of my career in prayer. So I feel you, man.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I hear you.
It's a tough business, brother.
It is. It is
I
that.
went through 32 years. Almost all of them were a 1-year contract.
Whew. Yeah.
So I finally got a multi-year contract, and I left and went somewhere else. So that's that's how crazy it is. But
yeah, that's how the football world is, man.
That's how it goes. But you just got to keep working and stay humble, man. That's my advice.
Yeah, head down.
Outwork people and stay humble.
Yep, that's 100%. I think no matter what you're doing in life, if you work hard and keep your head down, it'll work out whatever you're doing.
Talk a little bit about your church and your church family, what that's meant to you.
Yeah, Open Door here in Greenville is where I go, and I started. I went. Not a ton growing up, but I went enough. We would travel baseball and 3 other brothers. Weekends were tough, but we would always watch it online. And then once I got into college, I started going pretty much every Thursday or Sunday. And Open Door, Aaron Kennedy over there has been great. I went through a lot of stuff, like I said, and he's kind of helped me through it. And to this day, when I was living in Seattle, I was still talking to him, once or twice a week, texting with him and watching the services online. But I think it's important, whether it's Open Door or wherever you go to church, just having brothers and sisters in Christ is a huge deal, because you can't do it alone at the end of the day. You might think you can, but you'll find out real quick you can't. You got to have people that you got to have a prayer team and people that are there and have the same beliefs as you that you can talk to about dark things, and you can talk to about good things. You just got to have people in your life like that. And obviously God's always listening, and you can always talk to him, but you got to have people that can encourage you in dark times.
Right. Well, I saw you for well back into your career, not just your senior year. I really felt like you had great leadership qualities, and so describe yourself as a leader, and how would you convey leadership to young people that you're going to be coaching?
Yeah, I think what I said earlier about keeping your head down and just outwork people. I think that's the first type of leader that I am. I knew especially going into a new place. When I was a freshman at ECU, that was the best advice I ever had. And, obviously being a rookie in the NFL, that was the best advice I ever had. You don't talk too much. Keep your head down, outwork people, and earn people's respect. Your respect is earned, not given. And you were there my freshman year, and that freshman spring really when I got in there, because I graduated high school early. And that freshman summer, I was getting my tail kicked. The workouts you were doing and all of that were killing me, but it was building me up too. And I knew I needed it. But, the one thing I remember telling myself was like, I can't show weakness. Don't show weakness. Don't show weakness. And like the mat drills we did freaking in the winter that first year with you. And, I thought I was dying, and, I would not let myself show any weakness because I knew, you gotta earn people's respect, and you're not going to earn it by bending over or laying down or anything like that. You're going to earn it by being the first one up, being the one that's encouraging people. And, I think you just earn people's respect that way, and then slowly get more vocal throughout, the time. And as you get comfortable and as they get comfortable with you, I think would be kind of the best advice I could give.
Yeah, I think the tradition of mat drills started way back. I think it started at Florida State. I could be mistaken. But that spread through the country and became a tradition where every place I've been, we have to have mat drills.
Oh, yeah.
In the winter.
It's a staple. It's a staple.
Sometimes I was a little bit against it because I wanted the guys to recover enough to get stronger through that time period as well. But as crazy as it may seem, back in the 90s, I remember very specifically, we would end up with 100 up downs on the gym floor, 4 sets of 25, and you couldn't use your knees to get up. It had to be an up down. And I would have guys go right to the lifting group right after morning conditioning, the mat drills.
Yeah.
I had an early group, and they'd be hitting PRs sometimes. And it was hard for me to understand.
Yeah, you're like, how the heck is this happening?
We're using the mat drills for a warm-up, but
hey, I guess
I can't explain it, but I saw it a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
So what is your vision toward your future playing career? Do you have a vision now?
I think it's in the situation I'm in. I mean, I'm cut right now. And like I said, I trust God through everything. But at the same time, I do have a vision of me being a successful NFL quarterback. And I've, envisioned that ever since I was in college. And, I know I'm good enough to play it. I played really well in the preseason and kind of showed that I could did it and or do it. But, I just envision myself being successful for a successful team. I wouldn't mind being a backup in the NFL just because it is a great job to have. But, I think I'm good enough to play. I know I'm smart enough to play and can. And at the end of the day, I think some of parts of me being cut right now has a part of me being lefty and all that. And the NFL just hasn't seen that in a while. But if the ball gets where it's supposed to get to, when it's supposed to be there, and gets it to the playmaker's hands, then you're doing your job. And I think I'm as good as anyone in the world at that. And I think if you put me in the situation that I can go out there and be successful, and I'm super confident in that. But at the same time, you never know. I mean, I know that I'm going to be ready. I know I'm going to keep training. I know that I'm going to, if I do get a call, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be my best because I'm going to be training like I'm my best. So, hopefully I get a call and it all works out. And, I think, visualization is a huge thing, especially as a quarterback. So I'm definitely going to visualize success. And, when it comes, it won't surprise me.
Great. Well, do you have a vision after football?
Yeah. I got probably too many visions after football. I'd definitely love to get into coaching of some sort. I think I would love college, but, at the same time, I think, the moving and raising a family, I think I would enjoy high school a little bit better. Just being, settled down in one place, but, coaching is definitely in my future. I would love to do that. And then, from there, I'm really interested in real estate and stuff like that. And, sales in general, I'm interested in, and then entrepreneurship as well. But, coaching for sure. I can't imagine my life and, my mind without football. I've put so much into it and learned so much from it that, it'd kind of be, messed up for me not to, use that and to teach younger people that. I feel like all my ups and downs and the people that I've met, and writing down from Pete Carroll to Greg Olson to the Mannings to everyone in between, I feel like I've learned too much to not teach the youth it. And, especially around here, I mean, there's not a lot of people with that resources and, been where I've been and met the people that I've met where, I do feel like I could, be successful in that, kind of business.
Right. Well, since I got out, I thought, golf would be enough for me, but I didn't tell you this, I don't think, but a couple of weeks ago, I enrolled in to be a health and life coach. I'm going back to school, so I'm in my second week, and
yeah, I do not
love it, man. I think the first 6 weeks is just on nutrition.
That's awesome. Good
I'm
for
already
you.
learning a lot.
I just got out of school, so I'm not looking forward to any school anytime soon. But maybe when I'm your age, I'll get back into it.
There you go. But I got one more question for you. As a Christian, how do you hope to influence others around you or others you coach in the future toward righteous living?
Yeah, I think leading by example is the best way to show someone, what God is and who God is. And, the best advice, I kind of ever got with that is, someone told me, Holton, you may be the only Jesus that someone meets today. And I was younger and I was like, what does that mean? And I didn't really understand it, but the older I've gotten, the more I understand of, people may not be able to read the Bible. People may not have access to the Bible, but if they know you read it and they see how you act, how do they see you act? How are your actions? How do you treat people? How do you treat people who aren't nice to you? How do you treat people who are nice to you? And everything in between. And if you're kind and compassionate and loving and all the things that Jesus was, then that's probably how they're going to see. They're going to say that and say, okay, well, he reads the Bible, he has a relationship with Jesus. Let me find more out about Jesus. Let me figure out that. And that's kind of something that I've took with me is, I could be the only Jesus that someone ever meets in their lifetime. And if that's the case, if I can show someone, what that life is like, and I can bring someone closer to God, then, that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, football ends, businesses end, and careers end, and at one day life ends. And, you either go to one place or the other. There ain't the many options, either one or two. And I'd do everything in my life to make sure I'm going to heaven, and hopefully, carry people, there with me.
Well, the earlier in life they can figure it out, the better off they're going to be, and we all know that.
100%. 100%.
And that's why we try to minister to people. So sometimes they don't make the same mistakes we made, but it's very important to understand that you're involved in warfare every day.
Oh, 100%. No matter who you are, no matter
put
what.
on that armor of God,
Yep.
That's what you got to do.
Absolutely.
So, hey, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I love these podcasts because through my career, what I really loved was being with the players, So
Yep.
Really nice to reconnect.
Yeah, I appreciate you and everything you've done for my career. I mean, I wouldn't be nowhere near where I am without you, obviously, with you helping with Pro Day. And you kind of got me at the beginning of my career and then of college and then the end of my career at college. And to be able to work with you was great. And we ain't done yet, though. We'll get back together here soon.
That sounds good. I got to give a shout out to your coach, Coach Connor.
Oh, yeah.
Who had great influence on you. And I'll give a shout out to my man, Mark Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Training you when you were just a tyke.
Yeah. Those two guys, shoot, when I was me and Coach Connor, me and Mark started in 6th grade at, 5 a.m. working out. I didn't know what the heck he was saying or what he was doing. All I know is I was getting my tail kicked in the weight room. And
I never have figured out what he was saying or what he was doing, but I think he had good intentions.
He did. He helped me a ton, though. He helped my body develop. I remember starting in 6th grade, and then when I was in 8th grade going into high school, getting ready to work with Coach Connor. I was 185, and I told Mark, I was like, Mark, I'll not knowing Mark would actually do it. I was like, Mark, I'm going to get up to 215, 220. in about 2 months, Mark had me eating 10 bagels a day, and in 2 months I was up to that weight. And I was probably looking back at those pictures, I was probably a balloon just from eating carbs 24/7. I
Yeah.
remember going around in 7th grade, literally just eating plain bagels throughout the day, and I'm like, he got me to where I was going. But and then obviously when I got to Conley with Coach Connor,
Right.
I mean, he's one of the best coaches I ever had, and he could easily go coach in college, and so knowledgeable about everything. And he was the first one to teach me coverages. I remember when I was in 9th grade, I went into his office, and he started teaching me coverages, and he was like, all right, cover 1 means there's 1 safety in the middle of the field. Cover 2 means there's 2. Cover 3. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is the easiest thing in the world. If that's all I got to do is look up there and know what covers are in, about how many safeties are up there. And, obviously it's a lot more to that. And he taught me a ton of stuff, and I still go work out all the time there. And, he takes me through, quarterback drills and stuff like that. Cause I mean, he is as good as anyone I've worked with. So, he's a stud. I appreciate him a lot.
Yeah. And his dad is a great preacher.
He is. He's an open door guy now and works there, and
Okay.
mentors some of their younger preachers. But yeah, it's a great family.
No doubt. Well, thanks again. Hopefully I'll see you soon. Good luck.
Sure.
And let me know if there's any way I can help you. So this is Jeff Connors signing out for Absolute Empowerment. And God bless. We'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.
You've been listening to Absolute Empowerment with Coach Jeff Connors on The Sports Objective. Join us every Monday night for a new edition of the show. Listen to the show pretty much everywhere podcasts are found. Be sure to follow us on social media at The Sports OBJ on Twitter and TikTok, at The Sports Objective on Instagram. Like and follow our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. As always, we appreciate you listening to the show. And go Pirates!